Welcome to the 1958 Lawyer, the show for attorneys who know the old model isn't working anymore. The billable hour, the 12-hour day, the expensive office no one visits. Your hosts, Ron and Rebecca Boxstaller, are here to question all of that and more by exploring smarter, healthier, more flexible ways to run a law firm. No more burnout, no more outdated expectations, just real conversations with attorneys who are proving there's a better way. If you're ready to build a law firm that's profitable and livable, you're in the right place. Now here are your hosts, Ron and Rebecca.
Welcome to the 1958 Lawyer, the podcast about the business of law. I'm your host, Ron Boxstaller, joined by my co-host, RB. Here's the number most solo attorneys never heard. In 2026, a solo practitioner can shelter up to $72,000 in a single retirement account. And with that right structure stacked on top, defer well past $250,000 before the tax bill ever comes due. But most small firm lawyers are so heads down on billables that nobody ever builds that structure. So they find out in April what they could have set in motion back in June. Our guest today has spent more than 30 years helping business owners flip that script. Steve Mesirow is a senior managing director and wealth advisor at Mesirow, the independent employee-owned firm that's been advising clients since 1937, and a CFP who's been named a Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisor 3 years running. He works with business owners and professionals to accumulate, manage, and protect what they build. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron. Nice to see you.
Great to be talking to you.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Steve.
Okay, before we get to the first question, I want to set the table for our listeners. It's the middle of the year, which means there's still time to change your 26 tax picture instead of just reporting it next spring. And Steve is exactly the right person to talk to us about how to do that. Steve, so let's start with you. You joined Mesirow back in 93. You spent 3 decades sitting across the table from business owners while they make their biggest financial decisions of their lives. What drew you to this work, and what have you learned about the way professionals, attorneys especially, tend to think about their money?
I love this job. It's fun for me to make the money fit their lives. And I end up learning a lot about each individual, and I've got 100 different tools in my pocket. I gotta learn enough about the person to see which ones are applicable and the right ones. And there's every family. There's always something interesting going on with every family. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
so I find this very fun. I enjoy the relationships, and I enjoy making this thing work.
And for doing it for over 30 years, gosh, it's hard to even put that in my mind around that, doing it for over 30 years. I mean, it's a long time. You've seen a lot, and you've been with a lot of people for a very, very long time. So clearly a trusted advisor.
And there's new stuff, and there's new things all the time. Every day there's new good surprises.
Keeping it interesting. Well, our whole theme today is the mid-year check-in. I think a lot of people think of taxes or savings as either a January resolution or an April rush to the finish line. So why is the middle of the year a moment that could matter? And what can a solo attorney or a small firm see in June or July that maybe they wouldn't see at either of those other times?
So this is a particularly good time because it's easy to get other people's time. I like to have a lot of these retirement plan meetings with the client, and the accountant together. And we'll call Team Smith, whatever the person's name, Team Smith can get together and run through the different scenarios. And between the accountant, myself, and the client, we can get to a good solution and get it resolved. The accountants, we don't want to bug them anywhere near. We can't get them to fully concentrate and think in March and April, or in October, or at year end. So this is a good time to get them and get the most value out of them.
If we talk about the attorney they don't have anything set up at this point in time, maybe they just started, they're just trying to get things rolling. For a small firm getting organized, what are the foundational accounts you'd want them to understand? We've talked to you about the 401k, the SEP, the simple. Even before we get to, I know the cash balance plan, maybe this is the time we want to talk about that. How do you explain in English, plain English, what they need to get started with?
So the issue here is you got returns and times time. So the earlier you start, the better off you are, even if it's with a little, even with the when it's with small amounts of money, because the compounding and the time is powerful, and it's hard to get that back. We'll talk later about how to get that back, but it's much harder to get that. It's much harder to get that back. So starting with even a little is powerful, and it gives you more options. And what you're doing here with any type of retirement plan is you're taking money from your highest earning years and making the government wait. And that's to your advantage. And there's two pieces of that. Number one, you might be shifting money from income during your highest earning years to your retirement years in your 70s. In your 70s and beyond, you're probably going to be in lower income years. So you're shifting your income from high years to low years. Secondly, you get tax advantaged growth for those 10, 20, 40 years, however long you can do it. And so one of the ways to think about it is with that tax deferred growth is the money that would be going to taxes gets to work for you for 10, 20, 40, for 10, 20, 40 years. So the government's going to get their share eventually. But if you can utilize that money that you've earned and have it working for you for all those years, that's going to be very powerful and advantageous.
That's interesting, because I always think that people probably assume that their earning trajectory is always going to be on an uphill glide. So
it will be, but take your clientele exactly. Like they're going to be in their highest earning years, probably in their 50s and 60s, and then someday that's going to stop.
right.
Someday that's going to stop, or at least slow down, depending on your practice. It's going to slow down. So you're shifting. But even if it was a wash, let's say you're in the high bracket and you're going to stay in the high bracket forever, you still get use of that money by making the government wait. That money that would be going to taxes gets to earn on it each year. So that tax advantage piece is terrific. Now, if you're a young attorney and your income is low now and you know it's going to go up, a Roth IRA or a Roth contribution to your 401k, either one, Roth money is fantastic because you're paying the taxes on what your rate is now, but you still get the tax advantage. You get the tax advantage growth for the next 30, 40 years. So I tell my young professionals, let's start doing Roth, and you can do that on top of your 401k if you can manage the cash flow.
Well, since you brought up the 401k, I know that once that's been maxed out, there's a whole other tier of options that become available for people. So maybe you can kind of explain in everyday terms what that unlocks and what kind of attorney it would actually make sense for.
Great. So the different levels are, first, there's regular IRA. Okay, that's easy. The next one is 401k with profit sharing. And your group in particular is good because there's a 401k salary deferral element to it, but there's also a company profit sharing contribution to it. Your people in particular don't have a lot of employees because you're subbing those out. You're subbing those out with staff that Amada is providing you.
Fractional staff.
Another reason for fractional staff. When you do a profit sharing contribution, they're not your employees.
That's
You can do
right.
it to your employee, which is you.
Right.
So, and you can be very generous to you. So on a 401k, you can get yourself up to 70, 80,000, depending on how old you are. So that's another big jump. Now, if you want to go beyond that, there's there's a whole world called cash balance retirement plans, and those can get you up to $300,000 a year. So here, I'll show you. I'll show you a little illustration
Sounds good.
of how that works.
Yeah, the man comes with slides.
Everybody likes pictures, so let's see. Here we go. Let me share this. A cash balance plan takes some elements of 401k where you're putting away money on a tax deferred basis, and has some elements of a pension. Um, and what happens in a cash balance plan, and let me go back to the pension part. What happens in a cash balance plan is you're setting up a pension plan for yourself. So if you're a solopreneur, like many of you are, or you have one partner, this is an easy one to do. You want to be as generous as you can in setting up a pension. And the government says the biggest pension you can set up a pension that will pay you $290,000 in retirement. So what happens with these kind of plans is they say you're 55 and you said, I want to be as generous as I can to myself, and I have the cash flow. The calculation there is you need about $4.2 million in retirement savings to give yourself a $290,000 pension when you retire at 65. So they they back into that and say if you put away $310,000 a year for those 10 years, you're going to get there. And that's how you get to put in that artificially high contribution that is so much higher than the 401k route. So one of the ways I like to think about this is if you're putting away $300,000 instead of 70, $80,000, you're first off saving $80,000 more a year. And that $80,000 is working for you every year. Now, there's also a quirk of, well, I guess your people are everywhere.
Yeah.
Some states like Illinois don't charge retirement plan distributions. So if you put in $300,000 and then you took out $300,000, it would never get state taxed. But that's a state by state calculation. But the important part is you get another $80,000 that would be going to taxes working for you every year.
So big difference.
A big difference. Yeah. And so what that means is you're now looking at the interest that you're earning becomes very powerful. By 10 years, you're earning $200,000 a year in interest that's you wouldn't be having otherwise. Now, this is also all of these things are true for solo 401k too, just in a smaller extent. So you first want to do if you can do solo 401k, terrific, do that. If you have the higher cash flow, and you're able to do this cash balance, that's fantastic. And these are the kinds of plans that like a Kirkland or a Sidley or some of those big name firms are putting in for their partners. And yes,
so you don't have to be at the big firm. You don't have to be at the big firm to do this. You can go on your own and you can still do this.
You have access to do it yourself. And the beauty here is you don't have to make a contribution to, you normally would have to make a contribution to the employees, but in most of your cases, they don't have employees, or if they do, they have one or two.
Yeah. So, okay,
Um,
if they have one or two employees, can they still do the cash plan? They just got to
you can
compensate.
you can still do it, and you can still do the you can still do it. And what's interesting is you're allowed to skew in favor of older people. So if your staff is younger than you, you're going to have to put in something for them, but it's not going to be big. The negative scenario is or the one you'd want to run the numbers and
Mhm.
really double check it is if you were 50 and your assistant was 62. Um, because then you're going to have to, it happens sometimes, it happens sometimes for whatever reasons. So you'd have to be making a generous contribution to them, and that might be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Uh,
if you got the money, it makes sense. But if you don't have to, if you don't have quite that much money, maybe it's time to reevaluate how you're running your business.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
yeah,
this is powerful. Yeah, this is powerful stuff, and for uh, um, some law firms are sellable, some are not sellable. This is a great tool to take your business and monetize it and get and have a big chunk of wealth for you and your family later on. And
yeah.
then um, and then we also have some strategies once this is done of what happens with the end game. Oh, so the end game on whether it's a 401k or a cash balance plan. When you retire, you roll all this money to an IRA, and then you treat it like a regular IRA, take as much or as little as you want to each year. And um,
So
uh,
there's no max withdrawals at 70
there's no max, no, there's no maximum on this. Well, there's a maximum
or minimum.
on the cash balance plan of you can't, if the government rule is $4.2 million dollars, and it goes up a little bit each year. It goes up a little bit each year. But if the investments do too well, they're going to slow it down and say, we're funding, we're trying to back into $4.2 million dollars. So if you make too much money, you can't put away 310,000 this year. You can only put away 250,000 this year. So you're backing into it. But once you cap that out, and once you get close to that number, you end the plan, roll it into an IRA, and then the earnings are what the earnings are.
Right.
Nobody cares at that point. But that's one of the reasons one of the reasons to monitor it, because you don't want to, if you're supposed to be funding to 4.2 and it's looking like you're going to have five, and it's looking like you're going to have five, um, they tax that heavily. So we need to monitor that and end the plan. And we need to monitor and end the plan, get it into an IRA where no one cares.
Or no one cares. That's interesting. Well, if we have a minute, let's try to kind of go back a little bit to something a little bit more basic, probably. But there are a couple of new rules in 26 that change the math. I'm thinking like the Roth catch up for high earners. So, what's actually different this year that an attorney should know about before they make a move?
So um, when you have a solo 401k or any kind of, yeah, when you have a 401k and you're putting in a catch-up contribution, which is for those that are over 50, and then they have an even higher, there's even a higher a level. That has to now go into a Roth 401k. So as a practical matter, we're setting these up now for all of our clients that have 401ks. We're setting up a second account that's for their solo 401k regular and their solo 401k Roth money. And um, and what will happen is someday when they end the plan, the Roth money will go to a Roth IRA, the regular money will go to a regular IRA, and it's still advantageous. The money gets to still grow, tax advantaged, so it's a plus. And it's not so bad to have monies with different tax types. So the other piece that we often have people do is, in addition to their retirement plan, we have them do what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. So,
Hey, wait. You're still on my next question.
oh, my apologies.
No,
I
I mean,
wasn't reading your mind, Ron.
we talked
That's
in
how
about
you know
a
it
lot
flows.
of we talked like the cash plan, which I think is just an amazing program that most people I've talked to had no idea about. But there's some other real creative things that I know you got that you've talked about. So yeah, definitely let's talk about that. And I don't always get my mind around the backdoor Roth. So if you do talk about that's great.
Sure. So here's what you're allowed to do. Even if you're part of a retirement plan, you're always allowed to make you're always allowed to make a non-deductible IRA contribution. And so what you can do is set up your IRA, make a non-deductible contribution every year, and then when you do that, you put in 7,500, it has $7,500 of basis. The next week, we convert it from regular IRA to Roth IRA. And the tax on that is effectively zero because you have $7,500 of basis. They're going to tax you on the gain when you do a conversion. So normal people, when they have a regular IRA, if you convert a $10,000 IRA to Roth, you have zero basis. You're paying tax on $10,000 of income. If you have $7,500 of basis and it goes to $7,501, you're theoretically paying tax on the $1 of interest that you earned in that week. So what we do is we'll do it's called a backdoor Roth. It gets you that extra Roth money in that you wouldn't have had otherwise, and you'd rather have this than $7,500 in your regular account because this gets to grow tax with no taxes, and you get to pull it out with no taxes. So I'd rather have money. Roth money is the best money to have because it's always after tax, and whatever it grows to. So that's the pinnacle.
So the big thing in Roth is and I think we told our kids this, is do your Roth right now. So all those earnings, you're not going to pay taxes on down the road.
So think about this for a young person. Think about this for a young person. They put away $7,500. This is going to have 40, 50 years of growth compounded with no taxes ever. So even a small amount, even if they can just do, $4,000, fantastic, because it's going to have all this compounding. Now, I didn't mention also with these retirement plans, 401k and the pension plan, there's pretty good creditor protection on all retirement plans. Some of it varies state by state. Generally, the only people that can get to your retirement plans are the government, or your ex-spouse are the two ones, but general creditors can't get it.
And that includes a cash plan?
Yeah. So
wow.
The O.J. Simpson was sued for murdering those two people.
Mm-hmm.
He gets his NFL pension. They can't touch it. So
wow.
That's strong protection.
Yeah. It's real strong.
You brought this up.
My goodness, you're right. You're right.
You brought this at the beginning of the show, but you do a really, really good job of bringing all the right people together in the room. And I know you like the middle of the year when everyone's not quite so busy or they're not rushing to do things. Tell me about how you do that and what your approach is. You've been doing it for a long time. You got this down.
So I like doing this also because sometimes people in my position or the accountant, we ask clients questions that they're not prepared to answer, so they don't. And it's a waste of time of, if I'm the client, to have a meeting here, a meeting here, and a meeting here, and then I'm trying to sum it up in my head and convey what's said to each person. My opinion is, if you're paying them all, they all should be in the same room. They all should be talking to each other. And I find it ends up um, it ends up saving time, certainly saving time for the client. It ends up saving
Yeah.
time for me because the client's not playing telephone, and decisions can get made quicker because all the client's experts are in the same room. So what will sometimes happen is the accountant will suggest something, and the client doesn't necessarily understand what's going on, but I do, because I've been doing this for years.
Right.
And I'll
Right.
nod my head and I'll say, Ron, this is what people in your position do. Rebecca, this is, yeah, this is how it's done. So it gets better, and I find it makes the advice better. I think it makes me better having the other experts there,
Yeah.
because they might know something about the clients that I don't, some
Hmm.
source of income they have, or something that's going on with their family, or some assets that I don't know about. So I find it makes me better. So it extracts better value out of me. And I certainly know it extracts better value out of the accountant. Oftentimes, oftentimes they're not that proactive. And the time you're talking to them is when you're getting your,
Yeah.
your time you're getting your tax bill, and then you're discussing your tax bill. And quite frankly, after January 1st, there's not that much the accountant can do.
Right.
Right.
Everything is set. At that point, they're they're more of a clerk than an advisor, and these people have great knowledge. If you talk to them before year end, you can extract that value and strategy out of them. So why not?
Absolutely.
Why not? Well, what are the biggest mistakes that you might see solo or small firm attorneys make with their savings and their taxes? And what does waiting actually cost them? And I don't know, maybe you could give us a story or two about this.
Okay. So first off, waiting is obviously a problem, because every year you're missing out and you can't make that up. But I have a good story of I have an attorney who um she wasn't making she got divorced, lost all of her money, bad ex whatever. Bad spouse. She started working in law, and is killing it now. Um, but she's now in her 50s. She's in her 50s and she has no savings. So we put in one of these. She's now making $1 million a year, and this is all new to her. She hasn't saved anything. So we put in one of these cash balance plans for her. She didn't quite understand it, but myself and the accountant both explained it, and talked to her about it. And this is going to save her um, about 2 years of working to get her close to get her to where she wants to be for retirement.
Nice.
So we're gonna save this woman 2 years of cranking out 80 plus hours a week of things that she doesn't necessarily enjoy that much. So this is a fantastic tool to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what you
It's
can
great.
do. Well, Steve, we're running out of time. Let's make this actionable. Attorneys listening right now, give us may give us two things, but what's the number one thing they need to do if they don't have anything in place right now?
You need to start. You need to start now, and you need to. You can call myself. You can call the equivalent of me. But you should start now, And I would say the other, Rebecca, going back to your question, one of the items I see people do is they get too conservative.
Mm,
So my great fear in life is that somebody lives a long, healthy, happy life. So they live to 100. They live to 100. And people have this artificial, sometimes they have this artificial number in their head that, okay, at X age, whether it's 65 or whatever their number is, at that point, I'm going to get conservative, or my parents only lived till X age. I don't need to worry about extending out. And nowadays, I got lots of people living to their 90s, easy. I got a few hundreds.
Wow.
So, so for me, being conservative is safe in the short term, but it's risky in the long term because you're going to run out of money. The risk that goes up and of the markets going up and down, and there will be a 20-30% drop at some point. It could be in 2 months, it could be in 2 years, but the risk is not gaining long-term returns and limiting yourself and limiting your options. Having the more money saved away just opens up your options. If you love what you do, you keep doing it. You can
right.
always find
Absolutely.
you can always find relatives to give it to. If you but you want to have options.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what you want to build.
That makes sense. Well, I do want to squeeze in one more thing, even though I know that we're running out of time. I know that you like to connect people, and your team does these art reach gatherings that mix good food, art, business. If you step back from the numbers after 30 years, what does all this savings and planning really for?
Was I think I would go back to the pieces that it opens up, the options that it opens up for people, whether they want to do something, whether it's their retirement, but it doesn't have to be their retirement. It could be their kids that they want to help. It could be philanthropy that they want to help. And we have tools for all of those depending on what the goals are. But the first is helping to accumulate some mass so you can reach those goals. And I get a kick out of that. It's fun to help people. It's fun to help people reach that ultimate and figure out, oh, can we can we buy that vacation house or not? Or can I stop working 2 years earlier than I thought? The answer may be yes, the answer may be no. But my job is really to empower people by giving them the right information so that we can say, here are your here are your decisions you want to make. Here's what the consequences of those are.
Yeah.
And whether that means you're gonna if you're gonna run out of money at 77, that's not that that's I have some people like that, and we have to warn and say, maybe you should work another year or two, and let's see what that's and we'll show them what the consequence of that is. I have some people that are the other way. They're scared of spending money.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I say, live a little, live a little. It's okay to spend. So your kids are gonna inherit this instead of this. Fine. So I'm happy both ways to help them, show them what the consequence of their actions are,
Yeah.
and help them along the way. And as I said, there's 100 different tools for different situations, whether depending on what you're trying to achieve in life.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
Steve,
love it.
thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on the show. Want to have you back because this is mid-year. Maybe we come in, before the end of the year. It's exactly the kind of practical, no nonsense walkthrough our listeners need. And the reminder that mid-year is a decision point. Now's the time to call Steve and talk about, hey, let's start thinking about what I can do this year in 2026.
And
Not
I would
waiting until the end of the year.
Thank you. And I would say at minimum, with your accountant, if you bug them, if you schedule meetings with them in November is a fantastic time because you know where your year is going to fall out by November, and there's still some time to do things.
Mhm.
In December, you're running too late. People are going to be on vacation. If you make a good decision, there might not be time to implement it without making everybody crazy. So that would be my takeaway. But thank to both of you.
Absolutely.
This was fun.
If today's conversation got you thinking about your own savings and your own tax bill, I hope you'll take one idea from Steve and put it to work. You'll find Steve and his team at Mesirow. Connect with them on LinkedIn or learn more at Mesirow.com. Steve will have your information in the show notes. You can reach out to Steve. Steve, will you be able to have a link to your slides by chance that we can throw into the show notes?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll send that over to you. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with a colleague who could use it. The 1958 Lawyer is brought to you by Amada. For more than 30 years, Amada has, and I've got to record this. For more than 30 years, Amada has helped law firms of all sizes do more with less, built on our 5 pillars: fractional support staff, which we kind of talked about today, virtual office options, office space, legal community, and marketing support. Whether you're a solo practitioner just starting out or an established firm looking to right size your overhead, Amada gives you the infrastructure of a big firm without the big firm price tag. Learn more at amadacorp.com. Until next time, work on your firm, not just in it.
Thanks for listening to the 1958 Lawyer. If you like the show, tell a friend, and please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to hear more about Ron, Rebecca, or Amada, go to amataoffices.com. That's amataoffices.com. All the links are also in the show notes.